The homecoming. He returned home to surprise his parents with a life full of success. But what he found at the entrance of his own grand estate left him cold. Two elderly people shivering in the cold, cast out like trash. He could not have imagined that image would plunge him into an abyss of guilt he could never forget. The black Mercedes stopped in front of the sprawling modern residence just as the winter sun began to set. Liam O'Connell stepped out with a triumphant smile, adjusting his expensive cashmere coat as he admired the imposing three-story glass and concrete structure that was now his. He had planned this moment for months. To surprise his parents, to show them that their son had finally achieved the success he had always dreamed of. But when his eyes landed on the side entrance to the property, his smile froze on his face like the icy chill covering the driveway. Two figures were huddled in the snow, curled up under a threadbare tartan blanket that barely shielded them from the biting wind. An old man was embracing a woman with white hair, both trembling violently. Next to them sat two old, battered suitcases and a cardboard box from which a few faded photographs peeked out. They looked discarded, like rubbish on that freezing winter night. Liam felt something shatter in his chest when he recognized the faces. They were his parents. Arthur and Helen, the people who had given him life, were sitting in the snow like homeless people outside the house he had bought to impress his fiancée, the house where he had never once told them he lived. "Dad, Mom," Liam shouted, running towards them, his heart tearing apart. "What are you doing here? My God, you're freezing." Arthur raised his head, his eyes weary, filled with contained tears. Their tired gazes met his son's. There was no accusation in that look, only an infinite sadness that pierced Liam like a knife. "My boy," the old man murmured, his voice broken. "We didn't want to bother you. Vic told us you lived around here, but the lady who answered the door told us people like us weren't welcome, that this house wasn't for us." Liam felt the ground open up beneath his feet. He knelt before his parents, taking his mother's icy hands in his own. Helen looked at him with those eyes that had once seen him with infinite pride, but now only reflected shame and pain. "Forgive us, son," she whispered, her voice ragged. "We didn't want to embarrass you in front of your people. We're leaving now. Vic will be by for us soon." "Embarrass me?" Liam felt tears burning his cheeks. "You could never embarrass me. Who did this to you? Who kicked you out?" The main door of the mansion slammed open. Serafina Sinclair appeared in the threshold, enveloped in a pearl-colored ball gown that glittered under the entrance lights. Her perfect face showed an expression of absolute annoyance, as if the presence of those elderly people was a stain on her perfect celebration. "Liam, what are you doing out there?" she asked, her voice cold. "The guests are waiting. Tonight we announce our engagement. Remember?" Liam stood up slowly, his parents still trembling behind him. Fury began to boil inside him, mixing with a suffocating guilt. "Serafina, was that you? You put my parents out on the street?" She let out a dry, humorless laugh. "Your parents, Liam. Two bedraggled old things knocking on the door asking to speak to you. I told them this house isn't a shelter for vagrants. How was I supposed to know who they were?" She paused, looking at them with disdain. "Though seeing them now, I understand why you never mentioned them. They don't exactly fit the image we've built, do they?" The ensuing silence was crushing. Several guests had drifted to the entrance, drawn by the commotion. Men and women in immaculate suits observed the scene with expressions ranging from surprise to poorly concealed mockery. Liam overheard the whispers beginning to spread like wildfire. "Poor old dears, those are his parents. What a disgrace. Didn't know O'Connell came from that far down the track." Arthur tried to stand up unsteadily. Liam rushed to support him, but his father stopped him with a trembling hand. "No, Matt, we've caused enough trouble. Your mother and I will go. You have your life, your people. We didn't come to ruin anything." "You're not going anywhere," Liam's voice boomed in the icy air, filled with a rage he had never felt. "This is your home as much as it is mine." Serafina descended the steps with calculated paces, her heels echoing on the stone. She crossed her arms, looking at Liam with a mixture of disappointment and absolute coldness. "Liam, don't be ridiculous. Think about what you're doing. All our partners are inside. The merger with the Wrights is about to be signed. Are you really going to ruin everything for them?" Liam cut her off, his voice shaking with emotion. "Are you listening to yourself, Serafina? Do you realize what you just did?" "What I did was protect our reputation," she replied, unperturbed. "You and I are building an empire. We can't afford sentimental weaknesses. I thought you understood." Helen began to weep silently, covering her face with her hands. Arthur held her tightly, as if trying to protect her from the whole world. Liam felt something inside him break definitively watching his parents like that. Humiliated, frozen, destroyed outside the house he had bought with the money he earned, forgetting them. "I worked my whole life," Arthur suddenly said, his voice firm despite the pain. "I was a scaffolder, whatever it took so this boy could study. Your mother used to sew until dawn to pay for his textbooks. We never had much, but we always had dignity. And now—" His voice cracked. "Now I discover my son is ashamed of us, isn't he?" Liam fell to his knees before his father. "Dad, I never." "Then why did you never come to see us, son?" His mother's question was a whisper loaded with years of pain. "Why did you stop calling? Why, when Vic looked for you, did you always say you were busy?" Liam had no answer. The words caught in his throat as memories hit him like waves. Ignored calls, empty excuses, broken promises to visit soon. He had convinced himself he was building a better future, that when he had enough success, then he would come back for them, give them everything they deserved. But the truth was darker and simpler. He had been ashamed. Ashamed of his humble origins in front of Serafina and her social circle. Ashamed of the old brick veneer house where he grew up. Ashamed of his father's calloused hands and his mother's simple way of speaking. He had traded the two people who loved him unconditionally for a world that accepted him only for his money. "Mr. O'Connell," a gruff voice interrupted the moment. An older man in dark overalls approached from the street carrying a steaming flask. "I brought hot coffee for Arthur and Helen. I couldn't leave them out here any longer." It was Vic, the O'Connells' longtime trusted handyman, now their only real support. The man who had raised chooks in the yard of the humble house, who taught Liam how to ride his first pushbike, who never stopped calling him "my little bloke," no matter how much money he had. Vic looked at Liam with a mixture of disappointment and sadness that hurt more than any reproach. "Arthur told me about you weeks ago, young Liam. He said he wanted to see you, that he needed to tell you something important. I tried to track you down, left messages, but you were always in meetings, on trips, at important dinners." Liam felt the world stop. "Dad needed to see me? Why? What happened?" Arthur looked away, but Helen spoke with a trembling voice. "The doctor said his heart is very weak, son. He doesn't have much time left. That's why we wanted to see you one last time. We just wanted to say goodbye." The cry that escaped Liam was a raw, heartbreaking sound. He clung to his father like a lost child, sobbing uncontrollably as the guests watched with stone faces. Some muttered, others looked away uncomfortably, but Serafina remained motionless on the steps, arms still crossed, not an iota of compassion in her perfectly made-up expression. "I didn't know," Liam wept. "Dad, I didn't know. Forgive me, please, forgive me." Arthur stroked his son's head with trembling hands. "There's nothing to forgive, my boy. You chose your path, and that's okay. We just wanted to see you one more time before I go. That's all." Vic helped the elderly couple stand up. Arthur staggered, and Liam held him tight, feeling how fragile the body that once seemed invincible had become. "I'll take them back home," Vic said quietly. "They've had enough cold." "No," Liam interjected. "They're staying here. This is their house now." Serafina walked down the last steps, her patience finally exhausted. "Liam, listen to me carefully. If those people come inside this house, I am walking out. And not just me, the rights, the partners, this entire business we've built. You'll have to choose. Your past of misery or our future of success." The silence was absolute. Even the wind seemed to pause. All eyes were on Liam, awaiting his decision. His father looked at him with tear-filled eyes, but also with understanding, as if he already knew the answer. His mother squeezed Arthur's hand, bracing for another disappointment. Liam looked at Serafina, then at his parents, and in that moment, something that had been dormant inside him finally awoke. "Vic," he said, wiping his tears, his voice firm. "Take my parents inside, to the master bedroom. Have the most comfortable bed in the house prepared for them." "Liam," Serafina began, her voice threatening. "You," he interrupted her, looking at her with eyes that saw clearly for the first time. "You can stay or go, but I'll tell you this. I built an empire on the backs of two people who sacrificed everything for me. And for years, I pretended they didn't exist because I was ashamed of where I came from. Tonight, I found my sick father sitting in the snow. And if that doesn't break your heart, then you're not the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with." A murmur went through the guests. Serafina pallid, incredulous. "You're leaving me for them?" "I'm not leaving you for them," Liam replied. "I'm leaving you because I discovered that the man I became with you is someone I don't recognize. Someone who left his parents out in the cold. And that's not the man I want to be." Serafina stepped back, her eyes blazing with rage. "You will regret this, Liam O'Connell. I swear it." She turned on her heels and marched back into the house with furious steps. The guests began to disperse, some avoiding Liam's gaze, others whispering amongst themselves. Within minutes, the mansion was almost empty, leaving only the echo of slamming doors and starting engines. Liam knelt before his parents one last time that night. "Forgive me, please. I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you." Arthur smiled weakly, stroking his son's face. "You already have, my boy. You already have." Vic helped the elderly couple inside. Liam followed, closing the door behind him, but in the silence of that cold night, a question began to hammer in his mind. Why had Vic said he tried to reach him for weeks when Liam never received a single message? And more importantly, who had made sure those messages never arrived? The following days were like waking from a nightmare, only to discover reality was even worse. Liam had completely transformed his life. He cancelled important meetings, ignored calls from furious partners, and turned his mansion into a sanctuary for his parents. But every smile he managed to coax from Helen, every moment of peace beside Arthur, came with a guilt that devoured him from the inside like a slow poison. On the morning of the third day, while preparing breakfast in a kitchen he had never used, he heard weak footsteps descending the stairs. Arthur appeared at the doorway, leaning on the walking stick Vic had procured for him. His pale face showed the effort this simple act of coming downstairs had cost him. "Dad, you should be resting," Liam said quickly, dropping the frying pan and rushing to support him. "I've rested enough in my life, my boy," the old man replied with a tired smile. "Now I want to live every minute I have left, especially these with you." They sat together at the dining table, a huge Italian marble table Liam had once bought to impress guests who never returned after that night. Arthur surveyed the house with eyes that seemed to see much more than Liam would have liked to show. "It's a beautiful house, son, but it feels empty, as if no one has truly lived here." The words fell on Liam like stones. He was right. He had filled this mansion with expensive objects, art he didn't understand, furniture he never used, but he had never made it a home. "Dad," Liam began, his voice breaking, "I need to ask you something. Vic said he tried to contact me, that he called weeks ago to say you were sick, but I never received any messages, no calls, no emails, nothing." Arthur took a slow sip of coffee, his hands trembling slightly. "Vic showed me the call logs on his phone. He called your office 14 times in 3 weeks. They always told him you were busy, that they'd pass the message on, but you never returned the calls." "That's impossible. My assistant always passes on every message, every single one." "Your assistant?" Arthur asked. "What's her name?" "Monica Hayes. She's worked for me for 3 years, completely reliable." The old man nodded slowly, but something in his gaze suggested he knew more than he was saying. "My boy, I've seen things these last few days. I've overheard conversations I probably shouldn't have. And there is something you need to know about the night we arrived." Liam leaned forward, his heart pounding. "What is it, Dad?" Before Arthur could answer, the main door burst open. Serafina entered with furious strides, followed by 2 men in suits. Liam immediately recognized Richard Wright and his son, Javier, the most important partners in his firm. "Liam, we need to talk now," Serafina ordered, completely ignoring Arthur's presence. "It's not a good time," Liam replied, standing up. "I'm with my father." Richard Wright stepped forward. His usually genial face was now a mask of severity. "O'Connell, the board met last night. Your behavior was unacceptable. You humiliated Serafina in front of key investors. The merger agreement with our companies is suspended until further notice. And that's not all," Javier added, crossing his arms. "Several clients are pulling their accounts. They say they can't trust someone so emotionally unstable." Liam felt the rage boiling inside him. "Unstable?" "I stood up for my parents against an act of cruelty. If that's instability, then I don't want to be part of your world." Serafina let out a bitter laugh. "Your world no longer exists, Liam. I checked the figures this morning. Without the rights deal, your company loses 70% of its revenue. In 3 months, you'll be bankrupt." "Then I'll be bankrupt," he replied, surprising himself with the firmness of his voice. "But I won't be alone." "How touching," Serafina said sarcastically. "The successful businessman gives up everything for his elderly parents. It's almost poetic. Too bad poetry doesn't pay the mortgage." Arthur rose with effort, leaning on the table. His voice, though weak, resonated with an authority that surprised everyone. "Miss, I don't know what kind of person you are, but I'll tell you something. I've lived many years with nothing but my family's love, and I've seen rich men die completely alone, surrounded by luxury, but with no one to mourn their passing. My son chose love over money, and that is the only real wealth that exists." The silence that followed was absolute. Serafina paled, but quickly recomposed her mask of coldness. "Nice speech, but speeches don't feed people." She turned to Liam. "You have 48 hours to reconsider, or you lose everything." The three of them left, leaving a trail of expensive perfume and veiled threats. Liam helped his father sit down again, noticing how he trembled from the effort this small act of bravery had cost him. "Dad, you shouldn't have. Someone had to say it." Arthur interrupted. "That woman has poison in her heart, son. And what I was going to tell you before they arrived is important. The night we arrived, before they kicked us out, I heard Serafina on the phone in the study. She thought we were asleep in the waiting area where the butler left us." "What did you hear, Arthur?" Liam leaned in. He took a deep breath, as if the words caused him physical pain. She was telling someone called Darling that everything was going to plan, that soon you'd have to choose between us and your company, and that when you chose wrong, as she expected, she would finally have total control of your firm. Liam felt the floor move beneath his feet. "That makes no sense. Serafina doesn't have access to my company. We're partners on a few projects." "But my boy," Arthur's voice cracked. "She said something else." "She said, Monica did a perfect job blocking that annoying old man's calls. You never knew your father was sick until it was too late to do anything that wouldn't make you look like the villain." Liam's world collapsed in that instant. Monica, his trusted assistant of 3 years, the woman who managed his diary, filtered his calls, had access to all his emails. She had been the invisible hand, keeping him away from his parents, even when they desperately needed him. "Why?" Liam whispered. "Why would she do that?" Arthur placed a trembling hand on his son's. "Because someone asked her to, or paid her to, and I think we both know who." Before Liam could answer, Vic burst into the kitchen, his face contorted with terror. "Don Liam, Helen fell upstairs. She can't get up." Liam ran up the stairs 3 at a time, his heart hammering against his chest. He found his mother on the floor of the hallway, clutching a manila envelope with trembling hands. Her face was ashen, and tears streamed down her wrinkled cheeks. Mum, what happened?" Liam knelt beside her, helping her sit against the wall. Helen lifted the envelope with shaky hands. Her voice came out as a broken whisper. "My boy, I went into your study looking for a book for your dad, and I found this. Forgive me. I didn't mean to snoop, but when I saw the photos, I couldn't." With clumsy hands, Liam opened the envelope. His world crumbled for the second time that morning. Photographs. Serafina kissing Javier Wright in a hotel. Serafina signing documents in a law office, and a marriage contract that froze his blood. In case of divorce or separation, Serafina would be entitled to 50% of all Liam O'Connell's properties and companies. But what completely devastated him was the contract date. It had been signed 6 months before he proposed marriage. It had all been a trap from the start. "Son," Helen whispered, her voice broken with pain, "that woman never loved you. She only wanted your money. And when she saw we could make you reject her, she decided to use our love against you. She turned us into a weapon to destroy you." Liam helped his mother stand, supporting her as she clung to him as if he were the only solid thing in a collapsing world. Vic rushed in with a glass of water, his face reflecting a father's worry for his son. Arthur appeared in the hallway, gasping from the effort of climbing the stairs. Seeing the photos on the floor, his expression darkened with a mix of rage and sadness. "Dad, you have to rest," Liam pleaded, guiding both parents towards the master bedroom. "I'll rest when you're safe," the old man replied stubbornly. "My boy, listen to me. That woman set a trap for you, but traps work both ways. If she has secrets, you can find them and use them to protect yourself. I'm not like her, Dad. I don't play dirty." Helen took her son's face in her hands, forcing him to look into her eyes. "It's not about playing dirty, my boy. It's about justice, about stopping her from destroying more people. My dear son, if there is one thing I learned in my life, it's this. Silence in the face of evil is complicity. You cannot let her get away with this." Liam looked at his parents, fragile, old, sick, and yet stronger than he had ever been, because they understood something he had forgotten in his pursuit of success. That true strength comes not from power or money, but from integrity and love. "Okay," he finally said. "But we'll do it right, no revenge, just, right?" That night, while his parents slept in the master bedroom, Liam sat in his study with Vic. The older man had been a silent witness to the whole story, watching from the shadows as the son he helped raise got lost in a world of ambition and betrayal. "Vic, I need your help. I need to know everything you saw. Everything you heard, every detail counts. The man nodded slowly, pulling a folded piece of paper from his pocket. There's something else Arthur didn't tell you, young master. The night we arrived, I heard Miss Propis, Serafina, talking to someone else apart from the one she called Darling. A man. She was telling him that you were the last obstacle to something big, that once he had you under control or out of the way, the real project could begin. Real project? What project? Vic handed him the folded paper. I wrote down the name she mentioned, something about investments in South America. Operation Butterfly, she called it. She said that with your signature or without it, that money would leave the country before the end of the year. Liam felt his blood freeze. Operation Butterfly. He recognized that name from documents Serafina had asked him to sign weeks ago, telling him they were just routine company expansions. Documents he had signed without checking, blindly trusting the woman he thought he loved. What had he really signed? And what else was Serafina planning with his money, his name, his company? Liam stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the starry night. Somewhere in that city, Serafina believed she had defeated him, isolated him, ruined him, destroyed him. She didn't know that all she had done was wake him up. Vic, Liam said without turning around. Tomorrow morning, we're going to the office. You, me, and a lawyer, smarter than all of them put together. It's time to find out what Operation Butterfly really is, and who else is involved. Yes, young master. And Vic, thank you for never giving up on my parents, for continuing to try to reach me even when it seemed I had completely forgotten about you all. The older man smiled sadly. A father never gives up on his children, Mr. O'Connell. And even if I'm not your blood father, I watched you grow up. To me, you will always be that kid running barefoot in the yard chasing chooks. Children, even when they get lost, can always find their way home. Liam felt tears burning his eyes again. He had spent years building walls around his heart, believing hardness was strength, that coldness was power. But in 3 days, his parents and Vic had taught him more about true strength than all his years of business success. Now, only one question remained. Would he get there in time to save what Serafina was destroying? And more importantly, would he uncover the truth before it was too late for his father? Because as Liam planned his next move, upstairs, Arthur was choking for breath, pressing a handkerchief to his mouth while his wife slept beside him, unaware that her husband's time was running out much faster than his son imagined. Life has mysterious ways of pushing people towards the truth, and sometimes that truth arrives just as time is running out. The next morning dawned with a strange silence in the mansion. Liam woke up on the sofa in his study, surrounded by documents he had been reviewing until dawn. Every paper he found about Operation Butterfly was like discovering another stab in the back. Authorized transfers with his signature, accounts in tax havens, phantom investments in companies that didn't even exist. Serafina hadn't just planned to steal from him, she planned to completely destroy him. The smell of freshly brewed coffee pulled him from his thoughts. He followed the scent to the kitchen, and what he saw left him frozen in the doorway. Helen was standing by the stove, making tortillas by hand, just as she used to do in the humble house where Liam grew up. Her wrinkled hands worked the dough with movements that spoke of decades of practice. Of early mornings, rising before the sun to prepare breakfast for her family, Arthur was sitting at the table peeling oranges for fresh juice, and Helen watched her wife with a smile that mixed love and nostalgia. "Mom," Liam whispered from the doorway. "You shouldn't have done this." Helen turned, wiping her hands on an apron she had found in some forgotten drawer. "Oh my boy, a mother always takes care of her children. It doesn't matter if they are in a brick house or a palace. Love is served on the plate. It's cooked with the heart." Liam felt tears threatening to escape again. He walked over and hugged his mother from behind, resting his head on her shoulder like when he was a child, and the world seemed too big for him. "Forgive me, Mum, for all the breakfasts I missed, for all the mornings you spent alone waiting for me to call." Helen turned and took her son's flour-dusted face in her hands. "My dearest son, the past is gone. What matters is now, and now you are here with me, with your father. That's all I need." "Don't say that," Liam interrupted, his voice cracking. "Dad is going to be fine. We'll find the best doctors, the best treatments." Arthur coughed softly from the table, and for a moment, Liam noticed his father discreetly bringing the handkerchief to his mouth. There was something in that gesture that chilled his blood, but before he could ask, Vic spoke. "Don Liam, is there something you should know? Last night, after you fell asleep in the study, I got a call. It was Monica, your assistant." Liam felt every muscle tense. "Monica called you? Why?" Vic exchanged a look with Arthur before answering. "She said she needed to see you urgently. that she had information about Miss Sinclair that could help you, but that she couldn't do it over the phone, that she was afraid of being watched. It's a trap, Liam said immediately. Monica worked with Serafina to keep me away from you. I can't trust her. Maybe. Arthur spoke weakly but firmly, or perhaps he realized he was on the wrong side. My boy, people can change. Sometimes when they see the consequences of their actions, they wake up. Helen placed a plate of hot tortillas in front of Liam, along with refried beans that smelled exactly like those from his childhood. She sat next to him, taking his hand. When you were little, my boy, there was a neighbor who made our lives miserable. Her name was Mrs. Refuge. She criticized us because we were poor, because your dad worked with his hands. She said you'd never amount to anything because you came from nothing. Liam listened, biting into the tortilla that tasted of all the memories he had tried to bury. One day, his mother continued, Mrs. Refuge's son had a terrible accident. They needed money for the hospital, but she had fought with everyone in the neighborhood. No one wanted to help her. And you know who went to her house with all the money we had saved? Dad? Liam whispered, looking at his father. Arthur nodded. I gave her everything we had, because a father's pain is every father's pain. And holding a grudge is like taking poison, hoping the other person dies. Mrs. Refuge cried in my arms that day, and from then on, she was the first to defend our family when others spoke ill of us. People can change, son, Helen repeated. If Monica wants to talk, maybe you should listen, but carefully, very carefully. Liam finished his breakfast in silence, feeling the weight of the decision. Finally, he took out his phone and dialed Monica's number. She answered on the first ring. Her voice sounded frightened. Mr. O'Connell, thank you for calling. I need to see you. There are terrible things you don't know that Miss Salazar is planning. Why should I believe you, Monica? You blocked my father's calls. You kept me away from him when he needed me most. There was a long silence. When Monica spoke again, she was crying. They paid me. They paid me a lot of money to do it, and I needed that money for my sister's operation. But then I saw your parents in the snow that night. I saw them shivering from the cold, and I realized I had become the type of person I always swore I wouldn't be. Liam closed his eyes, feeling a mixture of rage and something that might be compassion. Where do you want to meet? At the Park Cafe at 2. But come alone, Mr. O'Connell. If Serafina knows I'm talking to you. Her voice broke. I don't know what she's capable of. The call ended. Liam looked at his parents and Vic, seeking a sign in their faces of what to do. Go, my boy, Arthur said. But take Vic with you. Have him stay close to keep watch, and if anything feels wrong, get out immediately. The hours until 2 p.m. passed like centuries. Liam tried to distract himself by reviewing more documents, but his mind kept spinning. What if it was a trap? What if Serafina was using Monica to set up another ambush? But there was also the possibility that Monica genuinely had information that could help him. Information that could protect his parents and save what was left of his company. At 2 o'clock sharp, Liam entered the Park Cafe. It was a small place, far from the city center, the kind of spot his former circle would never set foot in. Monica was sitting at a table in the back, wearing dark sunglasses despite being inside. She looked like she had aged 10 years in a week. Mr. O'Connell, she said when he sat down. Thank you for coming. You have 5 minutes, Liam replied coldly, and you better make sure what you have to say is the truth. Monica took off her glasses. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. Operation Butterfly isn't just financial fraud, sir. It's much worse. Serafina is using your company as a front to launder money for South American criminal organizations. The signatures you put on those documents make you a legal accomplice to everything. Liam felt the world stop. That's impossible. I checked. He stopped, realizing the truth. No, I didn't check anything. I trusted her blindly. There's more. Monica pulled a USB memory stick from her bag. Here is all the evidence. Emails, transfers, recorded conversations, everything you need to prove you were deceived. But there's also something else. Something about your father. Liam's heart stopped. What about my father? Monica swallowed, her hands trembling. Serafina researched your medical history months ago. She knew from the start that Arthur was sick, and she used it. She planned everything so that you would discover the truth at the worst possible moment, when your father was so weak that her voice broke, when it would be too late to do anything but feel guilty. Liam jumped up, knocking over his chair. The rage he felt was like liquid fire in his veins. There's more, Monica interrupted. Your father needs expensive, very expensive experimental treatment, and Serafina made sure all your main accounts were frozen. Without the rights contract, you don't have the liquidity to pay for it. How do you know all this? Because I was the one managing your financial schedule, Mr. O'Connell. I saw everything, I heard everything, and I stayed quiet because I was paid to do it. Tears ran freely down her face. But I can't live with this anymore. My sister was saved thanks to the money they gave me. How can I enjoy that life knowing I helped destroy yours? Liam took the USB stick with trembling hands. In that small device was the whole truth. All the documented betrayal. Everything he needed to stop Serafina. But also the most painful truth, that he had wasted valuable years with his father, chasing a success built on lies. And now, having finally opened his eyes, time was running out. There's one more thing you need to know, Monica said quietly. Javier Wright isn't Serafina's lover. He's her partner. The real lover is someone much closer to you, someone you trusted completely. Who? Before Monica could answer, the cafe door flew open. 3 men entered, their faces partially hidden by caps. Monica turned pale. "Run!" she screamed. "It's a trap! They followed me!" Liam reacted on instinct, grabbing Monica's arm, and they ran towards the back exit. Vic appeared from nowhere, blocking one of the men with his body. The 3 of them ran into an alley, hearing shouts behind them. They didn't stop until they reached Vic's car, screeching the tires as they sped away. Liam looked back, his heart beating like a war drum. The men hadn't followed them, but the message was clear. Serafina knew Monica had talked, and she wouldn't let that information get to where it could do her harm. When they reached the mansion, it was past midnight. Liam quietly went up to his parents' room. Arthur was awake, with Helen asleep in a chair beside the bed. "Dad," Liam whispered. "I did it. They fell for the trap. It's all over." Arthur smiled, tears running down his wrinkled face. "I knew you would, son. I always knew you'd find your way back to what really matters." Liam knelt beside the bed, taking his father's hand. "Now we can focus on getting you that treatment. We have time, Dad. We still have time." But deep in his heart, Liam knew the truth. Time was the one enemy he couldn't beat, and that enemy was winning. The weeks that followed the downfall of Serafina and Rodrigo were the most intense of Liam's life. The media covered the scandal relentlessly, a corrupt socialite and her accomplice betraying a man who had only trusted the wrong people. But Liam barely paid attention to the news. His entire world had shrunk to one room on the second floor of his mansion, where Arthur fought every day for a little more breath. With his accounts unfrozen and assets recovered, Liam hired the best specialists in the country. Dr. Mendoza, an internationally renowned cardiologist, examined Arthur and confirmed what everyone feared. The experimental treatment might give him a few more months, maybe a year, if they were lucky. But it wasn't a cure, it was just borrowed time. "How much does it cost?" Liam asked without hesitation. "Mr. O'Connell, we're talking about $500,000 and no guarantees." "I don't care. Do whatever is necessary." But when Dr. Mendoza left, it was Arthur who took his son's hand. "No, my boy." Liam looked at him, not understanding. "What do you mean, no, Dad? This treatment could save you." "It could give me time," Arthur corrected gently. "Time in hospitals connected to machines, feeling pain every day. That's not the time I want, son." "Then what do you want?" Liam felt tears burning his eyes. "Do you want me to stay here watching you die without doing anything?" Arthur smiled with that smile Liam had loved all his life. "I want you to use that money for something better. I want to spend my last days here, in this house, with my wife and my son, without pain, without machines, only love. And I want you to know when I'm gone that I was the richest man in the world because I had everything that really matters." Helen, who had been listening from the doorway, came in crying and hugged her husband. "Oh, you stubborn old man, always so stubborn." "That's why you fell in love with me," Arthur joked. And for a moment, Liam saw in his parents the young couple who had met decades ago, when life was hard, but love was enough. Liam accepted his father's decision, though it tore his soul apart. He hired specialized palliative care nurses to ensure Arthur felt no pain. He transformed the master bedroom into a space full of light, with open windows that let in the sun and the sound of birdsong. He brought photographs from the family's entire life. Arthur, young, in his builder's overalls. Helen sewing by an oil lamp. Liam as a child, chasing chooks in the yard of their humble house. Vic moved into a guest room to be near whenever they needed him. Monica, who had testified against Serafina and Rodrigo, came twice a week to bring fresh flowers and share coffee with Helen. She had lost her job, but she found something more valuable: redemption, and an impromptu family that had forgiven her when she couldn't forgive herself. One afternoon, while Liam was reading his father's favorite book aloud, Don Quixote, Arthur interrupted him. "My son, there is something I need you to do for me." "Anything, Dad. Look in my old suitcase, the one I brought that night. There's a yellow envelope at the bottom." Liam found the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter in his father's trembling script and an old newspaper clipping. The clipping was over 30 years old. It showed a young laborer receiving an award for saving a child from a collapse at a construction site. "That's you, Dad," Liam whispered, recognizing the young Arthur in the faded photograph. "I almost died that day," Arthur said. "A wall fell, and a child was trapped. Everyone ran to save themselves, but I heard his cry. I went in and pulled him out just before everything collapsed. I broke 3 ribs, but the boy lived." "Why did you never tell me this?" "Because I didn't do it for recognition, my son. I did it because it was the right thing, and that is the legacy I want to leave you. No matter how much money you have or how much power you achieve, the only thing that matters is what you do when no one is watching. How do you treat those who can give you nothing in return?" Liam hugged his father, feeling how fragile his body had become, but also how immense his soul was. "Now read the letter," Arthur said. Liam unfolded the paper with trembling hands. "My son, if you are reading this, it means my time is ending, and that is fine. I have lived a full life, full of love and purpose. I worked with these hands until they bled, but I never felt poor because I had your mother, and I had you. I am not writing this to make you feel guilty. Parents forgive, even before there is anything to forgive. I am writing to remind you of who you truly are. You are the child who shared his bread with other children who had less. The young man who studied under the streetlight because we had no electricity, but never complained. The man who built an empire, but when he had to choose, he chose love. That is my son. Not the one who got lost along the way, but the one who found his way back home. I ask 3 things of you. 1. Take care of your mother. She is my heart walking in the world. 2. Do not hold a grudge against those who betrayed you. Forgiveness is not for them, it is for you, so you can live in peace. 3. Use your success to help others, especially those like us who work hard but need a chance. I love you more than words can express, and I will be with you always in every good decision you make, in every act of kindness you perform. Your loving father, Arthur." Liam finished reading, his face soaked with tears. Helen came in and joined the embrace. The 3 of them formed a circle of love that no betrayal could break. The days turned into a precious routine. Breakfasts prepared by Helen with the recipes she had perfected over decades. Afternoons where Vic told stories of when Liam was a little boy getting into trouble chasing chooks. Evenings where the 3 of them sat together, sometimes talking, sometimes in silence, simply enjoying being together. Liam used his recovered fortune to create the Arthur and Helen O'Connell Foundation, dedicated to providing scholarships to children of humble workers who wanted to study. The first recipient was the daughter of a domestic helper, the second, the son of a construction worker. Monica became the foundation's director, finding in that work the redemption she desperately sought. Every scholarship awarded was another step toward redemption, and although she could never fully forgive what she had done, she learned to live with it while doing good. Serafina and Rodrigo were sentenced to 15 years in prison for fraud and money laundering. Liam did not attend the sentencing. It didn't matter anymore. He had learned that revenge brings no peace, only more bitterness. A year after Arthur's passing, Liam was in the garden watching his mother water the flowers when Vic approached with an old box. "Don Liam, I found this cleaning the room where your dad slept. I think he wanted you to have it." It was Arthur's toolbox, the same tools he had used to build houses, raise walls, feed his family. Inside was a final note. "Son, these tools built our living. Now you build something bigger, a legacy of kindness. I love you, Dad." Liam hugged the box to his chest, feeling his father's presence as if he had never left. And in a way, he hadn't. He was in every right decision Liam made, in every act of kindness, in every moment he chose love over money. That night, Liam sat with his mother on the porch. Helen was knitting a scarf as the stars began to appear in the sky. "Mum, do you think Dad would be proud of me?" Helen stopped knitting and took her son's hand. "My son, your father was always proud of you, even when you were lost, because he knew you would eventually find your way back. And you did, my dear son. You found it." Liam looked up at the starry sky, feeling a peace he hadn't known in years. He had lost a fortune, gained another, lost friends who turned out to be enemies, and recovered a family that had always been there waiting for him. And somewhere, beyond the stars, he was sure Arthur was smiling because his son had finally learned the most important lesson: that love is the only wealth no one can take from you, The only inheritance truly worth leaving behind. The wind blew softly, swaying the flowers. Helen loved so much, and in that whisper of the wind, Liam could swear he heard his father's voice. "Well done, my son, well done." And for the first time in a long time, Liam knew for certain that everything would be all right. Because he had learned that true success isn't reaching the top and being alone, but reaching it with the people you love, and building something that lasts beyond your own life. He had lost time, he had lost money, he had lost his father, but he had gained something infinitely more valuable. He had found his way back home, and that, in the end, was all that truly mattered.